Hello, my name is Michelle Sudbury. I'm the STEM coordinator at the Texas Education Agency. I'm excited to release the instructional series on the STEM Toolkit. The STEM Toolkit was designed to help a district or a campus design and implement a district-wide or campus-wide STEM program. This video series will consist of 5 videos that will go through the tools step by step, and this is the 3rd video in the STEM Toolkit series. If you've not watched the introductory video, I encourage you to stop now and go back so that you will understand the STEM framework. Also, these videos are intended to be watched in order. So if you have not watched the previous videos, then you'll want to stop and go back and watch those as well. The objective for this video and all of the videos in this series is to empower leaders with information to help guide and support STEM decisions. By the end of the video series, you will be able to define the indicators of high quality STEM education as they relate to the TEA STEM framework, communicate the purpose of the STEM resources within the STEM toolkit, recognize the logistical considerations that are important in planning and implementing successful STEM programs, and explore ways to include community stakeholders in STEM programming. The first step in developing the STEM program in Texas was to establish a common definition for STEM education. We have defined STEM education as a method of hands-on teaching and learning where students learn to apply academic content by creatively solving real-world problems with innovative design-based thinking to prepare students for future career opportunities. When we talk about STEM throughout this series, we are talking about a method of instruction, not a course. In the last video, we went through the first section of the STEM implementation tools. After implementing STEM programming, it will be time for self-reflection and to measure the effectiveness of your STEM programming. This video will cover the second section in the STEM implementation tools. Now we'll go live on the website and look at the instructional tools within the implementation of the toolkit. The tools in this section are the STEM curricular planning implementation reflection for teachers, the STEM walkthrough tools for campus administrators, and the STEM Fidelity of implementation tool for campus or district administrators. Oh, let me go here and click on the TEA toolkit here. If you've not watched the previous videos, I do walk you through how to get to the toolkit from the main landing page on TEA's website. That's in the very first planning video. So if you are not sure, you can go back to that and watch. Once you get to the toolkit landing page, we are in the second group of tools for STEM implementation. The last video, we went over the instructional tools for educators who are implementing in their classrooms. And now we're going to go over this midsection here about the STEM reflection and evaluation tools. As I mentioned, the audience for these tools are very specific. This first one is for teachers, the second one for administrators at a campus level, and this last one is for looking at the broad STEM program, either at a district level or at a campus level, looking at each grade level. So we're going to start with the implementation reflection. If you're an educator getting ready to implement STEM, you should know that not every lesson is going to be perfect, just like with other lessons that you teach. There's a kind of a process of the STEM education and getting it going in your classroom and feeling comfortable with not knowing the outcome that always will come out of your lesson. And so in this process, there is always room for reflection to hone your skills as an educator. So these are just some reflection questions to think about as you're getting started, and maybe after you do your first couple of design challenges in class. What is your reflection? And then some action steps that you plan to take in improving or strengthening the area that you reflected on. And so this is just a simple guide. I like to have a template when kind of looking through a reflective piece, because sometimes there are areas that I wouldn't even think about to reflect on. And so it's just nice to kind of have a guide as you are first getting started. And so that's what this is. It's 6 pages. It has different questions there. They don't all have to be filled in. Again, this is just a tool for an educator to look at. For the STEM walkthrough tool, this is for administrators, or if you're at a district level and maybe you're doing instructional rounds and you're doing them in the STEM area, STEM looks different. And so if you are an administrator and you walk into a STEM classroom and it's loud or looks like organized chaos, it's supposed to. The process of working through a problem and seeking solutions is a messy one. And so it looks messy in the classroom. And so sometimes it's hard for an administrator to know if the teacher's doing a good job and if the students are learning what they're supposed to be learning. So this walkthrough tool is to give you some look-fors when you go into the classroom. As an educator, you can also use this tool to help in your reflection process. If you were to fill this out for yourself, how would you rate yourself? And so it can be used either way. It is set up to be very easy, so you can print it out, put it in your on your clipboard or in your book that you carry with you when you do your rounds. You just simply fill in the boxes. There's check mark areas and then specific evidence that you saw while in the classroom. So this is set up to be a very quick, easy tool. You should see students talking and collaborating. That's a big part of STEM. And so if you don't see students doing that and you see students individually working, that's a flag for you that this is not a collaborative activity. The 5E model is where we most commonly see STEM education embedded. And so those steps are listed here, and also a short descriptor if you're not as familiar with the 5E model. There's also some pieces here that break down the engineering design process. So maybe students are in the explore part of a lesson and they are looking at materials. They're trying to brainstorm how to use those materials. And so you can look at this, these checkboxes and descriptors to figure out what part of the engineering design process that they are engaged in. Then what are the standards that the student is learning? And so see if you can identify the standards. Yes, it was very clear. No, it wasn't, or somewhat unclear. And so again, this is an area for conversation and discussion later with the educator. Was it cross-curricular? What STEM fluency skills were being developed in the lesson? What vocabulary did you see being used? Was the teacher and students connecting STEM concepts to the real world, which is a very large component of STEM education, the relevance and connection to where students will use the content in the real world, and then the differentiation being used. So this is just a simple tool to help guide, again, as maybe you're getting started for the first time doing STEM evaluations, or maybe this is an old hat for you. And this is just a tool that might make your documentation easier. And then the final tool is really one of the most important tools that have been developed. And this is the STEM Fidelity of Implementation tool. This is a hefty document. It is used to evaluate STEM programming at a district level. And so this would be a tool you'll see that is set up very similar to some of the planning tools that you saw, but it is much more detailed. And so I have seen districts that use the Fidelity of Implementation tool alongside their planning tools so that they can look at the best practices and try to align planning programming to those best practices. You'll notice now, hopefully you are more familiar with the STEM framework as you've looked at it. You have your high quality indicators broken into the different domains. So you'll see that same format here, but you will notice that there are different breakdowns. And so where we have 1.1 is in domain 1. We have different components of 1.1. So we have A, which is looking at your program equity. And then we have 1.1B, which is looking at the impact for targeted underrepresented groups. So both on equity, but two different lenses for equity. You'll see these broken down even further in like the student climate and culture section for domain 2. In the main STEM framework, we have 2.1 and 2.2. You'll see here that 2.1 has been broken up into A, B, C, D. And then 2.2 has also been broken down into further breakouts. At the bottom, you will also see example artifacts that could be collected as evidence of each section. So if you're struggling to find what artifacts you would use to evaluate your program on the planning guide, this document can give you some ideas. It is not an exhaustive list. It is just ideas that you could use to maybe springboard further thinking in your own planning. So as you go through this document, and like I said, this one is longer because it really breaks down a STEM program into all of the different areas and lenses. But once you get to the bottom, you have your place to list your strengths and opportunities for growth, your next steps as a district or a campus. This is your scorecard. It works just like all the other scorecards. So again, you will see those domains and high quality indicators broken out. You can mark which area you scored in. You will work this just like the model identification guide and the other documents that are similar format, where if your goal is to be introductory, the check marks that fall below are areas for opportunity of growth. The check marks that are above, that shows your areas of strength within your program. And you want to call those out and celebrate those strengths. As you go down, you'll see also an alignment to the effective school framework. So if you are using the ESF and you are familiar with the different levers, this is the alignment guide to the STEM framework. So you'll see the domains listed out, the high quality indicators, and then where that overlap is among the two different documents. Okay, so those are your tools. This section is a little bit shorter, but all very valuable tools. We've had a lot of success in our piloting and feedback, positive feedback from these different tools. So I'm going to go back now to the presentation. And if you've watched any of the other videos, which hopefully you have, you will know that we are collecting feedback for these videos. This will help us in further development. So if there are tools that you would love to see in a different section or in any of the sections that you go through, please provide that feedback. They are designed to be very quick, 6 questions. They're all quick click. If you've not used a QR code before, just open your camera on your mobile device. It will automatically capture the code and take you directly to the survey. And you can complete that on your mobile device or use a bit.ly as well, whichever you prefer. Thank you in advance for your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.